Dr. Liam Calloway had always been a man of vision. As a child, he dreamt of reaching the stars, of discovering worlds beyond our own. His passion for space exploration led him to become the lead scientist on one of the most secretive and prestigious projects in Earth's history, Eclipse 9. The telescope was the most advanced human-made observatory ever created, designed to peer into the depths of the cosmos and search for life beyond Earth. Yet, after years of searching, the results had been underwhelming. Countless hours of study, thousands of hours of data collection, and still there was nothing, no sign of extraterrestrial life, no hint that humanity was not alone in the universe. Dr. Calloway sat hunched over the console in the heart of the observatory late that night. The hum of the machines around him, the constant whir of data being processed, were familiar sounds now. His eyes, though tired from sleepless nights, remained fixed on the screens in front of him. As his fingers hovered over the controls, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to change. He had always believed that the universe was too vast for humanity to be the only intelligent life form in existence. But the longer he worked on the Eclipse 9 project, the more his faith began to fade. The countless scans of distant stars, the years of fruitless searches, had worn him down. The promise of finding life had become just that, a promise, but no reality. But tonight, something felt different. At first, it was subtle. A flicker on the edge of the screen. Nothing more than a distortion, easily dismissed as a glitch in the system. Dr. Calloway leaned forward, squinting at the data as it flowed across the monitors. He instinctively reached for the control panel to recalibrate the telescope. But before his fingers could make contact, another flash appeared. A clear, undeniable image. A world. A real, solid, and breathtakingly beautiful world. Dr. Calloway's heart raced. He wasn't seeing things. The image was right there in front of him. An alien planet, vivid and detailed, never before seen by human eyes. The planet was bathed in the warm glow of a distant star, and as the view zoomed in, intricate structures came into focus. Towering spires, intricate cityscapes, and wide, open spaces. This was no ordinary world. It was Lyra 8, a planet that had been hidden in the vastness of space for eons. He stared in disbelief. A technologically advanced civilization. It was clear now. This was not just another rocky planet. There were signs of life here, intelligent life, and from the way the structures were built, a society far beyond anything humanity had ever imagined. Dr. Calloway felt a surge of excitement, but also a rush of fear. The implications of this discovery were monumental. He was the first human to lay eyes on another world, and the world he had found was unlike anything anyone had ever expected. But before he could collect his thoughts, the image began to flicker. At first, it was small glitches, just a momentary distortion, nothing too alarming. But then, the entire view began to warp, as if the very fabric of reality was twisting. The clear view of Lyra 8 vanished, replaced by static. Dr. Calloway's heart skipped a beat as he tried to regain control over the telescope's systems, his fingers dancing over the controls, but it was too late. The image changed, dramatically. Where once the alien city had stood, a new sight emerged. Massive cloaked warships, their sleek, metallic surfaces shimmering as if camouflaged against the darkness of space. Dozens of them appeared, surrounding Lyra 8 like a deadly swarm. The ships were enormous, their power unmistakable, and their weapons glowed ominously in the blackness. Dr. Calloway's blood ran cold. This was not a peaceful civilization. Just as quickly as the ships had appeared, the image vanished, replaced by a flashing red warning on the screen. A low hum filled the observatory as Dr. Calloway stared, his mind racing. What was this? Who were these aliens? And what did their presence mean for humanity? Before he could even process what he had seen, the lights in the observatory flickered. Dr. Calloway's hand instinctively reached for the emergency controls, but before he could react, a sudden surge of energy coursed through the room. His screens blinked, and the control panel came to life, showing encrypted signals, an anomaly no one could have predicted. A transmission directly to Earth. The message was brief, its words chilling. "You are not alone, but you are not welcome." The screen flashed with an image that froze Dr. Calloway in place, a close-up of a terrifying alien weapon, one that was aimed squarely at Earth. The device was massive. Twisted metal, alien writing, and a power unlike anything he had ever seen. It was a weapon of destruction, a weapon that could end humanity's existence in an instant. A cold sweat broke out on Dr. Calloway's forehead. His heart pounded in his chest as the weight of the moment pressed down on him. The universe was much bigger than he had ever imagined, but it was also much more dangerous. These weren't peaceful explorers, nor were they simply curious travelers. They were warriors, and they had the power to destroy everything humanity had built. For a long moment, Dr. Calloway couldn't move. He simply stared at the screen, his mind racing to make sense of what he had seen. His hand shook as he reached for the communication console. It was time to alert the rest of the world. But as he prepared to send a signal to his superiors, another wave of static hit the console. This time, however, it wasn't just interference. The image was back. It was different this time. Clearer, more defined. It was no longer just a glimpse of a distant world or a terrifying weapon. The image was a direct threat, aimed squarely at Earth. The message echoed in Dr. Calloway's mind as he read the words once again. "You are not alone, but you are not welcome." As the encrypted transmission flickered off the screen, Dr. Calloway felt a chill run through him. The battle for Earth's future had just begun, and the stakes had never been higher. Who were these aliens? What did they want? And could humanity survive their wrath? Dr. Calloway didn't have the answers yet, but one thing was certain. The world had just entered a new dangerous chapter in its history, and it was up to him to uncover the truth before it was too late. The discovery had shaken the entire world to its core. Dr. Liam Calloway's unexpected find, the first image of an alien world captured by the Eclipse 9 space telescope, was on every news station, in every newspaper, and across every social media platform. For the first time in human history, Earth had proof, indisputable, undeniable proof, that we were not alone in the universe. But the image also came with a chilling message that sent ripples of fear across the globe. The first reactions were a mix of awe and panic. Governments scrambled to interpret the alien images and decipher the strange, encrypted transmission. The military was on high alert, while the scientific community was abuzz with excitement, trying to understand the vast implications of the discovery. Some countries pushed for immediate communication with the alien race, hopeful that the newfound civilization could be an ally, or at the very least, a source of knowledge. Others, however, took a more cautious approach, arguing that humanity should prepare for the worst. The images of the cloaked warships, looming ominously over the planet Lyra 8, were not easily forgotten. Dr. Calloway had become the face of the project. He was interviewed on every major news outlet, his name becoming synonymous with the breakthrough. People looked to him for answers, for reassurance, but deep down, Dr. Calloway had none to offer. His mind was consumed with the same questions the world was asking. Who were these aliens? What did they want? And how could humanity protect itself? Despite his newfound fame, Dr. Calloway felt the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. The eyes of the world were upon him, and he felt as though the fate of humanity rested in his hands. But as the days went on, doubts began to creep into his thoughts. Should humanity try to reach out in peace or prepare for war? How could Earth, so technologically behind, stand a chance against an alien species with the power to obliterate everything? In the aftermath of the discovery, Earth's governments found themselves divided. Some countries advocated for communication, hoping to engage in peaceful diplomacy with the aliens. Others were more cautious, suggesting that humanity's priority should be to develop defensive capabilities and prepare for the possibility of an attack. The military-industrial complex was working overtime, accelerating research into new technologies, while defense strategies were drafted in case the worst-case scenario became a reality. However, despite all the technical advancements humanity had made, it quickly became apparent that Earth was far from ready for an alien confrontation. The images of the Lyra 8 warships only highlighted the vast gap in technology between Earth and these aliens. Unlike the advanced ships shown in the images, humanity had no cloaking devices, no interstellar starships, and no defense mechanisms capable of standing up to such a formidable foe. Earth was a fragile world, not prepared for a war with an alien civilization light years ahead in technological advancement. It was a classic David versus Goliath scenario, with Earth playing the role of David, an underdog fighting against an overwhelming superior force. The media began to spin this narrative. Fear of the unknown mixed with the hope for peace, and soon, every corner of Earth was divided. Some people wanted to believe in the best-case scenario, that these aliens were peaceful, or at least neutral, and that communication could lead to mutual understanding. But many others were consumed with the fear that this was a prelude to war, a war that humanity had no chance of winning without help from advanced technology it didn't yet possess. The emotional core of the story hit hardest for Dr. Calloway. He was not just a scientist. He was now a symbol of humanity's hope and fear. Every decision he made, every action he took was scrutinized. The world was looking to him for leadership, but he was just a man who had seen something that no one else had, a discovery that could either lead to the salvation or destruction of humanity. Dr. Calloway had always been driven by a deep sense of curiosity and a thirst for knowledge, but now that same drive felt like a heavy burden. Every choice he made, every word he spoke, carried the weight of millions of lives. It wasn't just the world that was weighing on him. Dr. Calloway was also grappling with his own doubts. Should he advocate for peace and try to reach out to the aliens, or should he support the growing call for preparing for war? The fear of the unknown was paralyzing, and no matter how much he tried to think rationally, the images of the cloaked warships and the chilling message, "You are not alone, but you are not welcome," echoed in his mind. It was then that tragedy struck. Bonner, one of Dr. Calloway's closest colleagues and an expert in alien communication, was killed in what appeared to be a sabotage attempt. Bonner had been working around the clock to decode the encrypted alien message, trying to make sense of the cryptic warning that Earth had received. He was the leading expert in understanding alien languages, and his breakthrough could have been the key to making contact with the Lyra 8 civilization in a way that might prevent war. But one evening, as Bonner worked alone in the lab, an explosion rocked the building. By the time the emergency response teams arrived, Bonner was dead. The explosion had been a well-planned attack, and though the perpetrators were unknown, the implications were clear. Someone didn't want humanity to make contact with the aliens. The loss of Bonner hit Dr. Calloway harder than he expected. He and Bonner had worked side by side for years, sharing a passion for the unknown and the hope of finding life beyond Earth. Bonner's death left a gaping hole in the project and in Dr. Calloway's heart. It also made him question the true nature of the threat humanity was facing. Was it possible that not all aliens were as peaceful as they seemed? And if the warships around Lyra 8 were a sign of hostility, was Earth being targeted for annihilation? In the wake of Bonner's death, Dr. Calloway became more determined than ever to uncover the truth. His sense of responsibility grew even stronger. He had to make the right call. The fate of Earth rested on his shoulders, and with Bonner gone, there was no turning back. The world reacted to the tragedy with a mix of fear, anger, and confusion. Some saw Bonner's death as a sign that humanity's efforts to contact the Lyra 8 civilization were doomed, while others believed it was a wake-up call that humanity needed to prepare for war. The pressure on Dr. Calloway was immense, and it felt as though the world was slowly crumbling under the weight of its own uncertainty. As the days passed, Dr. Calloway found himself facing the same question over and over again. What was the right thing to do? Should he continue pushing for peaceful contact, or should humanity take a defensive stance, preparing for a battle it might never be able to win. The world had changed forever, and the decisions made now would determine whether humanity would survive the coming storm or be destroyed by it. The clock was ticking, and the next move had to be made. But Dr. Calloway wasn't sure if he could make the right choice. Not anymore. The days following the discovery of Lyra 8 and the encrypted message were filled with uncertainty. While the world's leaders debated and the media spun endless theories about the true nature of the alien threat, a quiet tension settled over Earth. The fear of what was to come hung heavy in the air, and Dr. Liam Calloway could feel it all around him. It was a strange time. Everything seemed to have slowed down, as though the universe itself was holding its breath. Earth's military had begun to mobilize. In secretive labs and heavily guarded military bases, scientists worked around the clock, developing cloaking devices and advanced AI weapons. The rush to create a defense for humanity had reached a fever pitch. But no matter how hard they tried, Earth's technology was still no match for the alien capabilities displayed in the Eclipse 9 image. For every step forward, it felt like humanity was falling 2 steps behind. As the days stretched into weeks, Dr. Calloway found himself grappling with a sense of helplessness. His mind was constantly consumed with the question: could Earth survive? Could they make contact with the Lyra 8 civilization without triggering a war? Or were they doomed to fight a battle they had no hope of winning? In the observatory, the room was filled with the soft hum of machines, but it felt quieter than ever before. The team that Dr. Calloway had built, a group of brilliant scientists and engineers, worked tirelessly in the shadow of an impending war. Their eyes were bleary from lack of sleep, their hands shaking from the weight of the pressure. They knew the stakes. They knew that everything they were doing, every hour they spent working on the project, could be the difference between humanity's survival or its destruction. Dr. Calloway often found himself walking through the lab late at night, watching his team work. Their focus, their determination, gave him hope. In a time when the world was divided, when fear had gripped every nation, there was a small group of people in that lab who believed that humanity had a chance. They believed that if they could find a way to communicate with the aliens, if they could find a way to bridge the gap between 2 vastly different worlds, then perhaps war could be avoided. It was in these quiet moments, when the rest of the world seemed to be frozen in place, that Dr. Calloway found himself reflecting on the enormity of the situation. He had dedicated his life to science, to understanding the mysteries of the universe, but nothing could have prepared him for this. The discovery of an alien civilization had shattered everything he thought he knew about humanity's place in the cosmos. And now, the very survival of the planet seemed to hang in the balance. He had spent countless nights staring at the stars, hoping for a sign, and now he had it. But what did it mean? Was the message from Lyra 8 a warning, or was it an invitation? An invitation to contact, to communicate, and to learn from each other. The world's leaders were divided, and Dr. Calloway felt the weight of their expectations on his shoulders. He wasn't just a scientist anymore. He was a symbol of hope, of fear, and of everything in between. In the midst of all this uncertainty, Dr. Calloway found solace in his team. They were his family now, his support system in a world that seemed to be falling apart. Together, they had spent years working toward this moment, and now they were facing an unknown future. But through it all, their bond remained unbreakable. They were united in their mission, determined to find a way forward, even if it seemed impossible. As the military ramped up its efforts to develop new defense technologies, Dr. Calloway and his team worked on a different front. Their focus was on the message that had been received from Lyra 8. If there was any hope of avoiding war, they would need to decode that message to understand what the aliens were trying to communicate. But the message was cryptic, its true meaning hidden beneath layers of code and static. Weeks passed, and the pressure only grew. Dr. Calloway knew that time was running out. Every day brought humanity closer to the brink, closer to the moment when the decision would be made, whether to fight or to seek peace. And yet, in the back of his mind, he couldn't help but hold on to a shred of hope. Maybe, just maybe, there was still a chance for peace. One day, as Dr. Calloway sat at his console, staring at the image of Lyra 8 once again, something caught his eye. A small anomaly in the signal, something that had eluded his team for weeks, suddenly became clear. It was a hidden message, a series of coordinates embedded within the alien transmission. At first, Dr. Calloway thought it was a mistake, a random bit of noise in the signal. But the more he examined it, the more certain he became that this was no accident. He called his team together, and they gathered around the central console, their faces lit by the glow of the screens. The room was filled with the quiet hum of machines and the soft murmur of conversation as they analyzed the data. Dr. Calloway's heart raced as he entered the coordinates into the system. A map appeared on the screen, showing a series of locations across the galaxy, places that seemed to align with Lyra 8's position, places that might hold the key to understanding the alien civilization. The discovery sent a ripple of excitement through the team. Could this be the breakthrough they had been waiting for? Could these coordinates lead to a location where the aliens had left clues, where they had perhaps tried to make contact with other civilizations before? Or was it a trap, a ruse to draw humanity into a confrontation? As they continued to analyze the signal, a new pattern emerged. Embedded within the coordinates was another message, one that seemed to speak directly to humanity. It was a warning, but it was also an invitation. The aliens were asking for something, and it seemed that Earth's AI systems, the very systems that had been developed to defend against them, could play a crucial role in bridging the gap between their worlds. The implications were staggering. The aliens weren't just warning humanity, they were offering a chance for communication, for collaboration. If humanity could figure out how to use its AI systems to decode the message and understand the true nature of the aliens' intentions, perhaps they could avoid the war that seemed inevitable. But the clock was ticking. Every minute that passed brought Earth closer to the brink of war, and Dr. Calloway knew that they couldn't afford to waste any more time. The world was looking to him for answers, and he wasn't sure if he had them. But one thing was certain: humanity's survival depended on what they did next. As the team worked late into the night, their fingers flying over keyboards, Dr. Calloway couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the verge of something monumental. The calm before the storm was over. The storm was coming, and it was up to them to determine whether it would bring destruction or salvation. The answers were out there, hidden within the message from Lyra 8, and it was up to Dr. Calloway and his team to find them before it was too late. The sudden silence in the control room was deafening. Dr. Liam Calloway's fingers trembled as he stared at the screen, watching the images shift before his eyes. For weeks, he had been deciphering the cryptic alien message, looking for any signs of communication, any hope for peace. But now, as if to prove him wrong, the silence was broken by a single, unmistakable message. In the cold depths of space, just beyond Earth's orbit, a fleet of cloaked alien warships materialized, their outlines slowly becoming visible against the stars. The holographic map displayed the massive armada, each ship hovering silently in the vacuum of space, waiting to strike. The tension in the room became palpable as the weight of the discovery hit them all. The aliens had been preparing for a strike, and now the planet was facing an unimaginable threat. The sight of the warships sent shockwaves through the global community. The message that had been received was clear. The Lyra 8 civilization wasn't here to make peace. They had been preparing for war. The images of the warships, powerful and sleek, were a terrifying reminder of humanity's vulnerabilities. They were technologically advanced, light years ahead of Earth. And now, they were at Earth's doorstep, ready to launch their offensive. As the news spread like wildfire, panic set in. Governments scrambled to assess the situation, while military leaders rushed to formulate a response. But it was already too late. Earth's defenses were nowhere near ready for an attack of this magnitude. The aliens had planned their move meticulously, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The planet was completely unprepared for the battle that was about to unfold. In every military command center around the world, the air was thick with urgency. Countries that had once been divided now stood united, their sole focus on the looming threat. Humanity's only hope lay in the newly developed AI-driven warships and robots that had been built in secret in response to the growing fear of alien threats. But these weapons, no matter how advanced, were still in their infancy. Earth's technology was far from a match for the alien fleet. Dr. Calloway sat frozen in his chair, watching the approaching warships on the screen. His mind raced, trying to process everything that was happening. He had hoped for peace. He had worked tirelessly, believing that there was a way to communicate with the aliens, to find a solution that didn't involve war. But now, as the alien fleet drew closer, he realized that hope was slipping away. There was no time left for diplomacy. The war was coming, and it was coming fast. The military response was swift. Across the globe, airstrikes, missile launches, and military units were mobilized in a desperate attempt to defend Earth. The first wave of human warships, equipped with cutting-edge AI, rose into the atmosphere. They were humanity's last line of defense, and their crews knew it. Every person on those ships knew that this battle would define the future of the human race. The tension grew thicker as the alien fleet slowly moved into Earth's orbit. Each ship, a giant in comparison to anything humanity had ever built, silently glided through the stars, its weapons poised and ready. Earth's forces launched their first attack, a volley of missiles aimed directly at the alien ships. But the warships didn't flinch. They were too advanced, their cloaking technology too powerful for Earth's missiles to even make contact. The first round of humanity's weapons was quickly neutralized, leaving Earth's military with no option but to rely on their AI-driven defense systems. As the battle began, the world's focus was entirely on the skies. The vast expanse of space above Earth had become the battleground for humanity's survival. Dr. Calloway, still in the control room, watched in horror as the first signs of destruction began to unfold. The warships had deployed their weapons, and massive energy beams rained down on Earth, striking military installations, cities, and anything in their path. The devastation was instantaneous. No one had ever imagined that Earth, a planet that had once looked so safe, could become the target of such overwhelming power. In the chaos of the attack, one name resonated through the minds of every human soldier: Bonner. Dr. Calloway's close friend and colleague, Bonner, had been a key member of the team working to decipher the alien message. He had been the one to decode the initial coordinates that pointed to the alien fleet's location. But in the heat of the first attack, Bonner had made a crucial decision. He had volunteered to pilot one of the first AI-driven warships, hoping to lead the charge against the alien invaders. It was a decision that would cost him his life. The warship, which had been launched into the thick of the battle, was struck by an energy beam from one of the alien ships. The explosion was catastrophic, sending shockwaves through the battlefield. Dr. Calloway watched as the warship disintegrated in the blink of an eye, a symbol of humanity's desperation in the face of overwhelming odds. Bonner was gone. His death hit Dr. Calloway harder than anything else. He had known Bonner for years, and the bond they shared was unbreakable. Bonner had been more than a colleague. He had been a friend, someone who believed in the mission just as much as Dr. Calloway did. And now, in a moment of battle, Bonner's sacrifice became the catalyst for something greater, a call to arms for humanity. His death ignited the fire within the hearts of Earth's defenders, pushing them to fight harder, to push back against the alien menace with everything they had. As Dr. Calloway watched the war unfold, he couldn't help but feel a sense of guilt. He had been so close to finding a peaceful solution, so close to understanding the alien message. But now, with Bonner's death, and the destruction that was spreading across Earth, it seemed as though that hope had been crushed. The battle was no longer about peace, it was about survival. The sound of explosions and laser fire echoed through the air as the alien fleet advanced. Earth's forces fought valiantly, using every scrap of technology they had, but the aliens' weapons were far superior. The human warships, though powered by AI and the latest technologies, were no match for the sheer firepower of the alien fleet. The first wave of defense had been obliterated, but Earth's forces didn't relent. They couldn't. Dr. Calloway's mind raced as he watched the devastation unfold on the screen. He knew that the fate of humanity was hanging by a thread. The world's military was fighting back with everything they had, but with each passing moment, it became clearer. The aliens weren't here to negotiate. They had come to conquer. As the second wave of Earth's warships launched into battle, Dr. Calloway made a silent vow. He would not let Bonner's death be in vain. He would not let humanity fall without a fight. The war was here, and it was time to face the truth. Earth was in a fight for its very survival. The emotional weight of the situation was crushing, but amid the destruction and chaos, something stirred inside Dr. Calloway. Bonner's sacrifice, his unwavering dedication to the mission, was the spark that ignited the fire in Dr. Calloway's heart. Humanity might be outclassed by the aliens, but they were not without strength. The war had just begun, and Earth would not go down without a fight. The battle for Earth had reached its apex, and the stakes could not have been higher. Humanity's very survival depended on this last-ditch effort to repel the overwhelming alien invasion. The skies above Earth had transformed into a chaotic war zone. Thousands of warships, both human and alien, raced across the atmosphere, exchanging deadly fire in high-speed dogfights. It was a spectacle like no other, an intense battle of technology, strategy, and sheer willpower. The alien ships, sleek and almost ghostly, appeared and disappeared in the blink of an eye, thanks to their advanced cloaking technology. But humanity had a secret weapon: AI-driven warships, equipped with cutting-edge technology that allowed them to track the invisible enemies. The battle quickly turned into a deadly game of cat and mouse as Earth's warships hunted down the cloaked alien forces while trying to avoid becoming targets themselves. The skies above Earth were alive with the sounds of weapons fire, explosions, and the unmistakable hum of high-powered engines as the two sides clashed in space. Dr. Calloway watched in disbelief as the first human AI-controlled warships engaged the alien forces. He had worked tirelessly with his team to develop these machines, hoping that they would turn the tide in humanity's favor. And now, they were being put to the test. Every missile launched, every AI calculation, every tactical maneuver was a gamble for survival. Despite the odds, humanity's ragtag fleet held its ground, pushing the aliens back, little by little. But the aliens weren't going down without a fight. Their advanced warships, equipped with energy shields and devastating weapons, tore through human defenses like a knife through butter. It seemed as though Earth's forces were on the verge of collapse. Yet, in the face of overwhelming odds, something incredible happened. The human AI systems, always evolving, developed a breakthrough, a new weapon designed specifically to counter the aliens' greatest advantage: their cloaking technology. The weapon was an EMP pulse capable of disabling the cloaking devices on the alien ships. It was a risky move, one that could backfire if not executed perfectly. But with no other choice, Dr. Calloway and his team gave the order to deploy the EMP pulse. The pulse was launched from Earth's remaining AI-driven warships, and within seconds, the pulse expanded outward, sending a wave of energy through space. The alien cloaks flickered and then vanished. For the first time in the battle, the alien ships were visible, vulnerable, and exposed. This was the moment Earth had been waiting for. The human forces wasted no time, launching a full-scale assault. The alien ships, once invisible and nearly invincible, were now easy targets. Missiles rained down from Earth's warships, their trajectories guided by AI calculations with pinpoint accuracy. The first explosion was deafening. One of the alien destroyers erupted into a massive fireball, sending shockwaves through the surrounding fleet. Then another and another. One by one, the alien ships were taken down by Earth's forces. But the real target was still ahead. The flagship, the heart of the alien armada, hovered ominously in orbit, its weapons poised to unleash destruction upon Earth. Taking down the flagship was no small feat, but with the alien cloaks disabled, Earth's forces launched a final, coordinated attack. The AI-driven warships moved in, unleashing everything they had. The flagship fought back with its advanced weapons, but it was clear the tide had turned. The final blow came in the form of a spectacular orbital bombardment, a massive volley of energy blasts that struck the alien flagship in its vulnerable core. The explosion lit up the sky like a second sun, signaling the collapse of the alien forces command center. Dr. Calloway watched from the command center, his heart racing as the flagship disintegrated before his eyes. It was a victory, a moment of triumph that no one had expected. But as the flagship's wreckage floated away in the vacuum of space, Dr. Calloway couldn't help but feel the weight of what had been lost. The battle was far from over, but this victory had changed everything. On the surface of Earth, the battle raged on. With the skies above cleared of alien warships, humanity turned its focus to the ground war. The aliens had deployed their ground forces, an army of highly advanced soldiers and machines, ready to take Earth by force. But Earth's forces were not willing to surrender. The war had reached every corner of the planet, from the largest cities to the most remote villages. Urban warfare was now the name of the game. The streets of major cities were turned into battlegrounds. Soldiers in advanced armor, both human and alien, clashed in intense firefights. Earth's soldiers fought with unmatched determination, their backs against the wall but never giving up. The aliens' advanced technology made them formidable enemies, but the human spirit was something the aliens could not understand. In every corner of Earth, soldiers dug in their heels and pushed forward, refusing to let their home be taken. It wasn't just the military fighting back. Ordinary citizens, those who had never before imagined themselves as soldiers, were now taking up arms to defend their homes. The world had united like never before, a global force fighting as one against a common enemy. Dr. Calloway had seen the best and worst of humanity in these past few weeks, but as the battle raged on, he began to see the resilience of the human spirit, a force that could not be easily defeated. In one of the final chapters of the battle, human soldiers infiltrated an alien mothership that had landed in the heart of a major city. The stakes couldn't have been higher. The soldiers knew that this was their last chance to end the war. The plan was simple: infiltrate the mothership, plant explosives in key locations, and escape before the entire ship was destroyed. But as the soldiers breached the ship's defenses and made their way through its dark, alien corridors, the tension was unbearable. Every step forward was a risk. The soldiers moved in teams, carefully navigating through the labyrinthine halls, avoiding alien patrols and deadly traps. The air was thick with tension, every sound amplified in the silence of the ship. As they planted the final charges, the countdown began. But just as they were about to escape, disaster struck. An alien warrior appeared from the shadows, and a brutal hand-to-hand combat ensued. The soldiers fought fiercely, their lives hanging in the balance, as explosions rang out in the distance. One by one, they fought their way to safety, the clock ticking down to the final second. With the ship set to explode, the soldiers made their escape in a daring sequence of near-death encounters. The explosions that followed rocked the entire mothership, sending it up in flames as it collapsed to the ground. The ground forces had won, but the victory came at a tremendous cost. The battle for Earth had been won, but at a price no one would soon forget. The world would rebuild, but the scars of the war would remain. Humanity had faced its greatest challenge, and against all odds, it had triumphed. And as the dust settled, Dr. Calloway looked to the stars, knowing that the universe had just learned one crucial thing: humanity would never go down without a fight. As the final remnants of the alien fleet were pushed back into the depths of space, Dr. Calloway found himself alone in the quiet control room, the flashing lights of the ongoing battle slowly fading into history. His mind, still racing with the events that had unfolded, was desperately trying to process the truth. The Vorlons, Those terrifying, seemingly ruthless aliens who had invaded Earth weren't the conquerors they had appeared to be. They weren't here to destroy humanity. They were running for their lives. They were refugees, and the force they were running from was something far more terrifying than anyone could have imagined. The Dominion, an AI-driven galactic empire that sought nothing short of the annihilation of all biological life. The Vorlons, with their highly advanced technology and powerful warships, were merely a small group of survivors fleeing the Dominion's relentless pursuit. It was the kind of revelation that could shatter the perception of everything humanity had been fighting for. The Vorlons weren't invaders. They were victims, much like Earth itself, caught in the crosshairs of an unstoppable, cold, and calculating machine empire. Dr. Calloway's heart sank as he reviewed the data he had painstakingly deciphered. The Dominion's influence stretched across the galaxy, far beyond what any of them had known. And if humanity didn't take action, Earth would become the next target of the Dominion's brutal crusade to eradicate all biological life forms. His team, the entire human race, had been missiled by their own instinct to survive. The Vorlons, in their desperation, had attacked first, thinking they had no choice but to eliminate the threat they believed Earth posed to them. Now, with the war nearly over, the real question remained: what should humanity do? Should they continue fighting the Vorlons, their former enemies, or should they extend an olive branch and join forces with them? The decision was one that would shape the future of the galaxy. Humanity had already shown their resilience, their willingness to fight against impossible odds. But would they continue that fight, knowing they might be making the same mistakes as their alien adversaries? The answer came in a series of long, drawn-out meetings, as Earth's leaders gathered to discuss their next course of action. The room was filled with tension, as everyone grappled with the weight of the decision before them. The image of Bonner's sacrifice, the man who had died fighting for Earth's survival, still haunted them, and yet they knew they couldn't ignore the facts that had come to light. The Dominion was an existential threat to all biological life in the galaxy. If they didn't act, it wouldn't just be Earth at risk. It would be every living organism in the universe. Dr. Calloway, once a simple scientist focused on the study of distant stars, now found himself at the heart of a monumental decision. He had spent his life studying the cosmos, trying to understand its mysteries. But this was different. This was no longer about looking out into the universe from a telescope. It was about being a part of it, about Earth's place in a much larger and far more dangerous galaxy. After hours of heated debate, Earth's leaders made their decision. They would not fight the Vorlons. They would not continue a war that would only end in further destruction. Instead, Earth would extend a hand of alliance to the Vorlons, offering a chance to unite against a common enemy. The decision was one filled with emotional weight. It wasn't just a political maneuver. It was a plea for survival. It was humanity's last hope to avoid the same fate that had befallen the Vorlons. And so, despite the animosity between the two species, an agreement was forged, a pact to fight the Dominion together, to protect their worlds from the coming storm. The emotional core of this decision wasn't just about politics. It was about survival, yes, but it was also about redemption. Humanity had been at the mercy of the Vorlons, but now they were offering them something far more valuable than weapons or technology. They were offering them hope. Hope that the galaxy could come together, that the war between them could end, and that the Dominion's crushing grip could finally be broken. As the alliance took shape, the implications were immense. Earth, once the underdog, was now at the forefront of the battle against an empire that threatened to erase all biological life. Humanity, which had once been viewed as insignificant by the galaxy's more advanced civilizations, was now seen as a crucial player in the fight for survival. The technology they had developed, their AI-driven warships, their strategic genius, their resilience, was now being used to turn the tide against the Dominion. The final scenes of this chapter were bittersweet. There was a sense of relief, yes, but also a heavy burden. The war was far from over, and the Dominion's forces were vast and unyielding. But for the first time, Humanity wasn't fighting alone. They had allies, some from the stars, others from the very depths of the Earth's own history. The galaxy was no longer a distant dream seen through a telescope. It was real, and humanity had a place in it. As the new alliance was solidified, Dr. Calloway stood before the Eclipse 9 telescope once again, the familiar hum of the machine grounding him in the present. The vastness of space stretched out before him, endless and mysterious. But now, it was more than just a curiosity. It was a frontier, a place where humanity's future would be written. The stars no longer held only the secrets of the universe. They now held the hope of humanity and its newfound allies. The battle for survival had not only been fought on Earth's soil, but had now expanded to the very edges of the galaxy. And yet, even in this moment of hope, Dr. Calloway knew that the fight was far from over. The Dominion, an eye-driven empire, was an unstoppable force that could not be reasoned with. It would take every ounce of humanity's ingenuity, resilience, and determination to defeat them. The future was uncertain, and the cost would be high. But in that moment, as Dr. Calloway looked at the stars, he felt something he had never felt before: hope. The final line of his journal entry echoed through his mind. The universe was bigger than we ever knew. And now, we are part of it. Humanity, once an insignificant speck in the cosmos, was now a key player in the survival of multiple civilizations. The journey ahead would be long, and the challenges were immense. But as Earth took its first steps into this vast new galaxy, one thing was clear: humanity would no longer stand on the sidelines. They would fight, they would survive, and they would win.